So back at it again. Very grateful for the insight that Professor Sam Vaknin brings. I can honestly say he's one of the most professional ones, and it seems he's uh, earned the world of in the international world of the professional. Um, how I wish I could afford at the moment. At the moment, I can't, but to buy the book that he has recommended on the group regression and um, I forgot the specific name, but it's basically the malignant narcissism and leadership. Um, so I'm going to get into the hallucinations and I think I'm sure there's specific differences in the delusions, illusions, and all of that. But I'm going to keep it more clustered together in terms of just lack of clarity, uh, opposite effects. Okay, and how I don't know how some people genuinely like that world and are big fans of mysticism and mythology and all manner of, like, I mean, I appreciate some cartoons, so on and so forth, but uh, now, say for example, recreational drugs and things like this. I've never been. I don't know how some people like acid, mushrooms, stuff like that. To me, is an absolute horror. Like to me, the biggest horror there can be is for the world that it already is in terms of the social aspects of things. It has become progressively, or should we say, regressively uh, more difficult to um, not necessarily make sense because you can make sense of it, but interact with it. People interacting with each other in a constructive and good fashion, right? Um, and of course, I attribute this to bad mental health. So, yeah, in that regard, when I was younger, back in the days around these ways, they even had legal party pills, which some of us enjoyed. And yeah, there were some that you could take that were, with components of hallucinogenic and that sort of thing component to them. But I've never ever been attracted to that. Again, to me, there isn't party. To me, there is just, to me, it's a horror, right? Why would you want something that confuses you more? you know, like unless the only somewhat correct application that um, I've heard about is microdosing with psilocybin or something like that, um, in order to allow to create more neural networks so that you can have a clearer mind, so that you can have access to more correct cognition. All right. And how I presume if you remember, like, and I'm purely talking chemical hallucinations, like, I'm not an expert or a professional or anything like that, but I can only presume and assume that if you remember your hallucinations and they're strong enough, and you can't differentiate, when you're having a trip to when to what reality is, then you're literally creating like incorrect neural networks. If that is not an absolute horror, I don't know what is. So I presume people that have overdosed on those things and stuff like that, have been stuck in, hallucinations like that for a long while, is the reason why they sort of get stuck like that and have massive mental health issues, because they can't shake off, right? They can't forget or wipe clean the incorrect neural pathways that they have created. So I think I'll leave the extreme chemical hallucinations to the side and now start dialing in to some of the things that I was affected by and I have managed to overcome. But again, just like a lot of other things, as some of us progress, other groups of people, like the paper that has been written by professionals, other large groups and in positions of leadership, so leaders and large groups have been regressing and, progressing in getting more and more ill mental health. So some of the things that I found absolutely invasive, with potential to create delusions, illusions, hallucination, and a component of covert harm, of malignant, covert, narcissistic, sociopathic, psychopathic behavior, with intent to create harm, just like gaslighting does, right? Like it's a form of crazy making. And how I noticed when I was younger and wasn't prepared for these things, it did have an effect on me. At times, it might have successfully done things such as Professor Sam Vaknin said, when they were successful in their crazy making, they might have had, times when they were successful in inducing me into some sort of psychosis for 2 minutes, for, I don't know, a day or something. I don't think it's ever been that long, but to me, that psychosis mainly was more of a rage or something like that. And I'm not talking getting angry and setting the record straight or something like that, which that's what I should have done. These are some of the things that I do these days. Of course, without being violent or anything like that. So both the fact that their malignant narcissism, sadism, so on and so forth, wasn't as pronounced as it is today, would allow for this almost, so for a very successful mimicking of reality. And just like if someone's going to perform gaslighting on you, the closer it is to real life, the closer it is to your problems, and the less amount of frequency there's being done, the more the chance of you buying into it there is. So that's part of the reason. And of course, the less prepared and less experienced you are in overcoming these things, the less internal clarity and mental map you have of who you are and what your flaws are and what your strengths are and what your capabilities and abilities are, the more successful they are into doing these things. And then as time has progressed on and I have deciphered and demystified a lot of these things, of course, there is a big component that remains presumption and assumption. But again, how I've described before, if you've got because I like to do an analogy on this as if it's a mathematical equation. So if you've got a mathematical equation, how I was describing before when I wasn't very prepared and they were successful into doing these things. So AKA, I wasn't able to solve for X, right? There would be many other unknown factors in there. So I'd have a X, Y, Z, whatever, many, and then there'd be a couple of numbers that were known, a couple of knowns, but then for most part, there'd be a lot of unknowns. As time's progressed, the unknowns, I'm only solving for one unknown, pretty much. And just like any other equation, those are some of the most simple equations. And to describe the scenario even better, it's as if that unknown in one of the numbers that you can see, and that's how you know that the unknown is changing. So if one of the numbers within the equation that you can see, say you got 5 plus 3 equals X. So the X must be 8, right? But if you see the 3 changing into a 4, changing into whatever, right? You know that that X is going to change. So this is, right? And so I presume people can get how, can grasp how I function in facts. And of course, I enjoy a bit of, art and so on and so forth. But yeah, just like, so for me to get to this point, I had first the likes of religion tried to be applied on me, and seeing both the benefits and the correctness of it and the incorrectness of it and the mythology of it. Then legal systems, okay? And how eventually I got to learn how you can have legislation that is unlawful and you can have legislation that is lawful. Right, like a quick, simple one is the privacy laws and what they're doing with the phones and so on and so forth these days, and the data harvesting and whatnot, and how that can play into why don't people also always add mental health and safety when they go looking at, rights in terms of privacy and stuff like that? So many people making videos and all of this, but no one also looks at it with a tool bag of mental health, next to them as they're making their videos. And now I'm talking metaphorically, all right? With the tool bag, with the knowledge. So, the frequency of gaslighting, the frequency of what I can only describe as echo chamber mirroring, right? That both proves how I've kept on saying, some privacy, privacy in terms of digital, whatever, being broken, right? Illegal, unlawful activity coupled with gaslighting by people that obviously are suffering or victim of whatever, cluster B personality disordered people. And because of lack of funding and support that would allow me to pursue and investigate these people and come up with the hard, concrete evidence, then it's left to presumption and assumption. But at the end of the day, it doesn't change the fact, if I'm going to use the analogy of the mathematical equation, and how at the end of the day that x doesn't matter to fully solve for it if you at the last stage, right, of solving, and there's just the last one, but it just keeps on changing. So you're never really gonna, unless the known numbers become stable, which that hasn't happened really, unless I control my environment like to the degree that I expose myself to minimal potential wrong stimulus, to potential corrupted stimuli, right? So as in, unless I make it so that the equation has the stable numbers, and then the unknown is solved, and that's it, that's people living healthy, right? But it's simplified so much. And I think whether they've analyzed things and deciphered